I mean, I was devastated, as you can imagine. So I went home and I hit rock bottom. And that took a few days. And a few days later, I had like this mental head smacking moment, this epiphany, that it was like, wait a minute. This is up to you to figure out.
Yeah. You don't have to settle for that.
Exactly. They're making it worse. You know, it's your job to figure it out. And I just taught myself how to move again, like the way we did when we were kids. You know, it's like, okay, if I move this way, just slow it down. If I move like this, that makes my pain worse. If I move like this, it makes it a little bit better. So I just did that every single day. Stopped doing the exercises and stretches that the therapists gave me because, like I said, it wasn't working. I discontinued all the medication. I just stopped cold turkey, fired my medical team. Like, I'm on my own here. And the only thing I added was acupuncture.
Welcome to the Permission to Heal podcast. I am Marcy Brockman. Together, we will discover what brings us meaning and true joy. You only need your own permission to begin. Hello and welcome to Permission to Heal. I am Marcy Brockman and I am thrilled that you are here. Today I have a phenomenal conversation with a really motivational, delightful, empowered woman named Cheryl Ilov. Cheryl is an author, she's a speaker, she's a physical therapist, she's a respiratory therapist, she's a martial artist, she's a ballet dancer, she's a pole dancer, and she's a former chronic pain patient. She has an amazing story. So if you feel that you're stuck or that you can't do something or someone's telling you that you can't, she is going to help you realize that you can. That's what we're all about here, Permission to Heal. We give ourselves permission to begin to do the things that we want to do. With over 20 years experience as a physical therapist in private practice, Cheryl has helped thousands of clients recover from pain and injuries by integrating the science of physical therapy with the art of movement. She believes that everyone can enjoy a vibrant health and vitality at every stage of life. She's a second-degree black belt in the ancient Japanese martial art called Ninpo Tai Jutsu, from her own experiences beginning when she was 47, and she became her teacher's first female black belt 10 years later. She discovered that there's an incredible amount of strength and power in each and every one of us just waiting to be unleashed. She published her first award-winning best-selling book called Forever Fit and Flexible, Feeling Fabulous and 50 and Beyond. She published that in 2016, and most recently, just last month in March of 2022, or a couple of months ago in March of 2022, she published The Reluctant Ninja, How a Middle-Aged Princess Became a Warrior Queen. And she's currently working on her third book, which shares the secrets of the ninja and life lessons she learned through training. She lives in Colorado, in Denver, and when she isn't writing, dancing, hiking, or beating up some bad guys, she loves nothing more than relaxing at home with her handsome husband and 3 Italian greyhounds. Cheryl's great. She has her own podcast called the Fem Ninja Project, and I am going to be a guest on her podcast. And just recently, just recently in April, I created the Permission to Heal Bookshop on bookshop.org. So you can pick up Cheryl's books, Forever Fit and Flexible and The Reluctant Ninja, as well as my memoir and guided journal, Permission to Land, on the Permission to Heal podcast bookshop on bookshop.org. The links are in the show notes. Just an easy way for you to get a hold of the books and the expertise that are talked about in each of the episodes, and do so while supporting local and independent bookshops. I think it's a win-win. So please join us for the episode. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm so excited to share with you the new Permission to Heal Bookshop on bookshop.org, We all know how important it is to support our local and independent bookshops, and I've created a podcast dedicated bookshop on bookshop.org. So just follow along with me at Permission to Heal Bookshop on bookshop.org. The link will be attached to the post, and you can have access to the entire catalog of books by my expert guests. You can just click and order from the independent bookshops and support everyone. It's pretty awesome. I've also put a bookshelf with my own Permission to Land books on it, and all sorts of books for inspirational help and books that I love. So join me on bookshop.org with the bookshop, the Permission to Heal Bookshop.
So welcome, Cheryl. It's so nice to chat with you today.
Well, I thank you, Marcy. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It really is an honor.
I'm so glad. I know we scheduled this a while ago, and I'm glad it's finally working out. That's good because I really wanted to talk to you about the changes that you made in your life in multiple times over, but you talk a lot about at beginning martial arts at 47 and having that be sort of the catalyst to start a whole lot of other change in your life. Just when some other people would think you'd be slowing down, you're accelerating into another act, so to speak. And,
Absolutely.
And I love that. I'm 50. How old am I? 53. I'll be 54 in a month, and I'm still revving up.
Absolutely. And happy birthday in
Thank
advance.
you.
And just so you know, 54 is a glorious age. And my 50s was probably the best decade of my life. I mean, it was so good because I got to be honest, my 30s were really not good at all.
Mine either.
And yeah, well, they were kind of like a nightmare.
Yeah. I'm sorry
And
to hear that.
that's okay. And my 40s were even worse.
Oh no, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Thank you. So I felt like I was crawling to the big 50 because there was
Mm-hmm.
something deep inside of me that kept saying, if you can make it to 50, everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And I don't know why I told myself that or why I believed it, but oh my gosh, when I did turn 50, it was just fantastic. And as I said, my 50s were fantastic. They were so good that when I turned 60, I just ran towards 60 with arms wide open, going, bring it on, baby.
Wow. Finishing a marathon.
Crossing. No, making a milestone, but that marathon is still going on.
Oh, well, yes, true. It wasn't such a good metaphor. I was just thinking of you like running, getting to the finish line and bursting through the big ribbon kind of thing, but I guess it doesn't quite work. Anyway.
Well, a mile marker, we'll call it that.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. That makes sense. So what changed for you? I mean, can you give us, like, encapsulate what the trauma was from your 30s and 40s that you felt you wanted to leave, or you wanted to be free of?
Well, in my 30s, and I have to be honest, I've always had, like, some confidence issues, and self-image issues, never being good enough, and never, just, especially I started ballet when I was 19 or 20. So there you are with all those mirrors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a family who cherishes their vanity. and
Okay.
and so, we're very critical of ourselves. And then all of a sudden, there I am, ballet class in a leotard and tights. And oh my God, I was so old, in my 20s. And I really felt like that. I felt like I was so old because here I was doing this art form where there were a lot of much younger people in class, young dancers, even though there were, other adults. So that just kind of started, reinforcing the little insecurity, the feelings of insecurity. But, I managed. It wasn't that bad or that big of a deal until in my 30s. It was my mid 30s. What started out as like discomfort and tightness in my low back,
Okay.
quickly spiraled out of control into a full-blown chronic pain syndrome.
Oh.
So within a few short months, I went from being a healthy, active, vibrant young woman to being a chronic pain patient.
Oh no.
And when it first started,
was there an accident, or did you
nope,
fall, or
nope,
car accident?
nope,
Nothing.
nothing.
Just a random mysterious event.
Random mysterious event. Of course, now so many years later, I know what happened, but I didn't know. I was a respiratory therapist at the time. I wasn't a PT. And so I did the right thing, I thought, going to the Western medical doctors. I had my medical team. But as time went on, instead of getting better, I was getting progressively worse, even though I was taking all the medications they gave me, pain pills, muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories had just been, hit the scene in a big way. Sure. I went to my PT appointments. I did and I can say this now because I'm a physical therapist, the stupid exercises and stretches that they gave me. I did them religiously, but they didn't help. And I went to the massage therapist. I did everything. And instead of getting better, I was getting progressively worse. And it wasn't until, and so that's the self-image. You could imagine what that did to me, and then of course I was gaining weight. I couldn't move. I was miserable all the time. I had to cut back on the hours that I was working because as a respiratory therapist, you have to be able to be pretty nimble and run around the hospital and move big equipment. So, I mean, it was just a nightmare. And I was living this horrible, horrible hell of a chronic pain patient. And it wasn't until one of my doctors said to me that I would never be able to do my laundry and my grocery shopping all in the same day because the arthritis in my spine was so severe, I would end up being bedridden.
Oh,
and
no.
I mean, oh yeah. And I looked at her like, I was confused because this did not compute, it made no sense to me. And I looked at her and I says, you don't understand. I'm planning on going back to ballet class. And she laughed in my face.
Wow.
And said, you don't understand. You're a chronic pain patient. You will always be a chronic pain patient. You will never have the life you had before. You will never have the life that you wanted. And forget about PT school, because she knew that was one of my goals, even before this had all started, that I was trying to get into physical therapy school, taking all these prereqs and stuff. She said, even if you could do the work, but you can't because you're too injured, severely injured, you're just way too old for PT school.
What?
Thank you.
And you were in your 20s?
No, at that point, I was in my mid-30s. I was 36 years old.
That's ridiculous.
I know.
I'm starting a new master's program a month after I turn 54 to become a mental health counselor. So
yes, I am so proud of you, and I am so excited for you, and I am so glad that, to be talking to you right now, because that is part of my message is we are never, ever too old to start new things.
Exactly. And I thought when I told my husband and then my family that this is what I wanted to do, I thought they were going to just like scoff at me. But everyone was just like, yeah, go ahead. You could do this. You don't think it's going to. And they're like, no, why would that be too old? Keep going. I have another 7 years before I can retire from teaching. So I'll be licensed just a few years before I can retire and then just move into a new career.
That is so perfect.
Yeah, I'm
When
excited.
I said I was going to PT school, even my own mother said I was too old.
Yeah, she's
It was
crazy.
like, well, I thought so. But anyway,
I'm
and
glad you didn't
obviously,
let her stop you or the
well,
crazy doctor.
no. But when that woman did tell me that, then she told me that I needed to start applying for disability because I was going to need it.
Oh,
I know. So, I was devastated, as you can imagine. So I
sure.
went home and I hit rock bottom. And that took a few days. And a few days later, I had like this mental head smacking moment, this epiphany that it was like, wait a minute. This is up to you to figure out.
Yeah, you don't have to settle for that.
Exactly. They're making it worse. It's your job to figure it out. So I fired my entire team, much to their chagrin, because I really needed them according to them. And I just taught myself how to move again, like the way we did when we were kids. It's like, okay, if I move this way, to slow it down. If I move like this, that makes my pain worse. If I move like this, it makes it a little bit better. So I just did that every single day. Stopped doing the exercises and stretches that the therapists gave me because, like I said, it wasn't working. I discontinued all the medication. I just stopped cold turkey, fired my medical team. Like,
Right.
I'm on my own here. And the only thing I added was acupuncture. So between the acupuncture and
amazing.
I love acupuncture. Oh my gosh. I wish
you need a good therapist. There are a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing. So you have to find somebody who really has the training and knows what to do.
Exactly.
That can make or break the whole experience. But yeah.
Yes, I've used it ever since, off and on. I haven't had any for a few years now and I kind of miss it, but I really don't need it. But anyway, it only took a matter of about 8 months okay, it was a tedious process. I had my ups and my downs, but in 8 months, I was pain free. Mm-hmm. And I took myself back to ballet class. I, of course, didn't do a full class. And I just told the teacher, I'm going to stand here in the corner. You just ignore me. Let me do my thing. Mm-hmm. And, I'm going to leave as soon as I know it's time.
And so I did that. To tolerance, and that's that.
There you go. And so it was just it was about 2 months after I was completely pain-free. I got the letter from CU, Health Sciences Center. I was accepted into their physical therapy program. So I graduated. Yay. Thank you. You're going to love this part. I graduated with honors, which shocked me, but with honors. It was just 3 months shy of my 40th birthday.
Mazel tov. Wonderful.
So I guess I wasn't too old.
No, not at all.
And nobody is ever too old to explore new things, try a new adventure, start a new business, go back to school, and don't ever.
You only need your own permission to begin. I say that every single episode.
And I love that.
Thanks.
Because once that really resonated with me, and I was thinking about it today because I knew we were going to be talking.
Yeah.
And that is really huge because a lot of times that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Is to give ourselves permission. And a lot of times we hold ourselves back for whatever reason. So once you start going
too many of us sort of keep that locus of control external to ourselves. That somehow we feel like we need other people's approval, or we need other people's permission, we need other people's go ahead or something to do anything, regardless of whatever it is. And as soon as you take that control back, the sky's the limit, really.
It really is. Yep.
Because nobody should have that control over you anyway.
No.
So
no. I always tell people too that you are your own expert. I mean, we need the experts. Yeah. But we need the experts sometimes to maybe, clear us, like, okay, I was having chest pain. I think I know what it is. It's these movements we're doing in martial arts, these Hoshi points, but it's my heart. Maybe I ought to get it checked out. As soon as he cleared me, it's like, okay, I know what it is. Went to my acupuncturist, told him what it was. He goes, oh, well, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. So we did one session and boom, the palpitation stopped.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So you, after the ballet, then 7 years later, you picked up Tai Jutsu.
Ninpo Tai Jutsu.
Tai Jutsu. What categorizes Ninpo Tai Jutsu? I've never heard of this before.
It's an obscure martial art. It's an ancient Japanese art based on the art of the ninja and the samurai. And I, of course, fell into Ninpo the way I have kind of fallen into pretty much everything in my life. But I mean, it's kind of a powerful story. So, after I had finished physical therapy school, and I was working as a physical therapist, and, spoiler alert, I hated it.
No.
Yes.
After all of that?
After
Cheryl,
all of that. Thank you.
I know.
It like a Hoover with all the attachments.
God, that's so funny.
Hated it.
Oh,
So
no.
I was for 2.5 years. The job market was terrible when I graduated. They were just horrible working conditions. The money was much less than what it was just a few years earlier. I mean, it was terrible. I actually ended up being recruited by a local community college to teach respiratory therapy. And I'm on the phone with this woman. I'm going, you don't understand. It's been 6 years since I've functioned as a respiratory therapist. She goes, we're not going to put you in the intensive care unit. We're just going to put you on the floor with, the first year students, blah, blah, blah. So I accepted it. And I mean, I had fun because I love teaching anything.
Sure.
But it was wonderful working with students again and being in the hospital setting. And they were paying me a lot more than what I was getting paid as a physical therapist. I'm going, okay, there's something desperately wrong with this situation.
Yeah.
So I was still, I was teaching RT. I was still doing some PT, and I'm sitting one day in this gut-wrenchingly boring staff meeting.
Oh, God.
I wanted to stick a fork through my eye just to make sure that I still had a pulse. It was so bad. And then it was another one of those mental head smacking moments. I got another epiphany, and it was like, hey, wait a minute. At that point, that was 1998, 99. At that point, Pilates was just starting to become popular, in the United States.
I love Pilates. Oh my God.
I had been studying it myself since 1983. So it was like when I graduated my PT program, I went through 2 different professional Pilates training programs.
Oh.
So it's like, I am a certified Pilates person.
Right.
I'm now a physical therapist. I have this dance background. Okay, I am going to go out on my own and open my own practice, which I did. So in 1999, I opened up my own physical therapy practice, not a clinic, it was an office. Right. Specializing in Pilates-based rehabilitation and conditioning, and then later adding something called Feldenkrais. So I did that for 18 years. In 2017, I closed my office because I needed a break. Yeah. And now I just kind of relaunched it online. I have a few clients. I'm teaching some in-person classes and workshops and having a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, you probably have helped a lot of people with a Pilates-based rehabilitation practice.
I cannot believe. And what was such a perfect fit for me, because I was in their shoes. A lot of my clients came to me as like a last ditch effort. Yeah. Some of them were like, I was told I have to live with this for the rest of my life. And there is nothing that lights a fire under me
than proving the Western medical community wrong.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. And, and I had such a deep level of empathy for, these people who told me that. And some of my clients then would come in and they'd say, well, I tried working out at the health club, my doctor told me I needed more exercise. And then I ended up with all these injuries because the people at the health club didn't understand how to work with a body that was maturing,
Right. They don't.
Just, yeah. But, you can do anything that you want to at any age. You just have to be smart about it. So that's where I stepped in and filled up those gaps. Plus, I got a couple of clients that they did their physical therapy and they just weren't happy with their level of function. They felt they could go a little bit farther, sure. But because of insurance, but they were cut off. So,
right. Pilates is a good place to step in there.
Pilates is fabulous.
It's
exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I have L4, L5 issues.
Ooh.
And like once a year or so, it just flares up and I can barely move. And this year I'm circumventing that pattern completely because I'm doing Pilates 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it's really made all the difference. You know, I had gone through years ago, like 15, 20 years ago, I had purchased a mat Pilates program that I did at home on my own, which was amazing. But then I don't know what happened. But in the recent years, I'd been trying other things. Like I had joined a traditional gym. I tried Orange Theory. I tried a bunch of other things. And they were geared, their coaching staff was geared towards young, fit, 20-something bodies. And I show up, you know, I was in my late 40s and having all sorts of, you know, menopausal issues and weight gain and all sorts of crap. And I nearly died on their treadmill. And they were like, you're not in the zone yet. I'm like, what? I'm like crying as I'm on the treadmill in the middle of an anxiety attack, feeling like I'm going to die. And they're like, no, you've got to be kidding.
Yeah. And I make jokes about that. And I might have even put it in my first book. I don't remember, but it's like, there's nothing like having 20-year-old Brad or Tiffany at the health club, you know, trying to tell you to, you know, feel the burn, you know, no, you need more weights, you know, faster, more repetitions. And that is so stupid. You know, a 20-year-old body maybe wants to do that too, because they have a lot more energy to burn. But yeah, when you're getting older, it's not because your body's falling apart. It's just because of all the, you know, injuries and the minor little tweaks and abuses that we've done to ourselves over the years start to accumulate. But you do not have to live with pain. I mean, that's just
no, it's fabulous.
And that's go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, that's actually the impetus for writing that first book. Because what I did is I put all of, you know, like the techniques that I used to help heal myself when I didn't know what I was doing because I wasn't a PT, but that experience on top of the physical therapy understanding and knowledge and experience and working with all of my clients, because I never fixed my clients. I never said I was going to fix them or heal them. I says, but I will teach you how to heal yourself. So that's why I wrote the book.
Them to do it. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that same conversation that we had. Once you give yourself permission that you're in control of your own life, your own body, your own, you know, healthcare, or whatever it is, then the magic happens and the doors just go flying open and you can do amazing things.
So that's how Forever Fit and Flexible, Feeling Fabulous and 50 and Beyond became a thing. That's awesome. I love the alliteration, all the F's.
Yeah, isn't it? Awesome. Yeah. I loved all the F's.
That's awesome. That's great. So I started a new thing this weekend while I was convalescing. I started through bookshop.org. I started a Permission to Heal podcast bookshop on bookshop.org. Nice. So as people go, as listeners go listen to our episodes and would like to purchase copies of the guests' books so they don't have to look around like crazy people and try to figure out where to go, your books are already in the Permission to Heal bookshop on bookshop.org. So if you are listening, you can just scroll down and there are links directly to the bookshop. You can purchase both of Cheryl's books, Forever Fit and Flexible and The Reluctant Ninja, which we will talk about in a little while. So
okay. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. That's very nice.
And then we can support local and independent bookstores as well.
Absolutely.
Because that's where they get shipped from. So
yep. And I didn't even realize that it was on Bookshop yet. I checked, you know, I think I checked 2 days ago because it takes a while for the new, you know, the new books to show up.
Yeah, the new one just came out a month ago. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I edited it last night.
Yep. Nice.
It's exciting.
Yay. Well, you know, it is exciting, but there was a whole lot of angst when it came out.
Your book? Why?
Well, with me. Because it is a personal story and it is deeply personal. And there are a lot of things that people who know me might read it and say, oh my God, I never knew that.
Okay.
So, you know, and there was like it was almost that, oh God, you know, second thoughts or not really regret, but well, the genie's out of the bottle and there's no way to get it back in now.
Exactly. Almost 2 years ago, I published a memoir, a very telling, vulnerable memoir called Permission to Land. And I changed the names of all the people whose feelings might have been hurt, or I didn't want to tell other people's stories. But yeah, I'm basically standing in the middle of Main Street naked in the book. I mean, metaphorically, obviously I would not do that, but yeah, there are very few secrets, if any, left.
Yeah.
So I get that vulnerability.
Yeah. Well, I didn't change a lot of the names. Some of them I kept.
Okay.
And I really believe in my heart, or did at the time, that, the people whose names I kept, and I didn't use their last names, just the first names,
Right.
but I figured that then of course, kind of spill the beans at the very end when I do the acknowledgements, and I name all these people and include their last names.
Right.
But anyway, I didn't think that they would be upset.
Right.
And, it was like, oh, but still, you always get and as soon as that book went live, the one person, and a lovely lady, very long story behind it, but she actually ended up we became very good friends. We were training partners. She's 30 years younger than me. Her mom's age. And as soon as the book went out, or went public, was released, she immediately bought it. I got a text the next day. I didn't know anybody bought the book. And she said, "Oh my God, I read your book."
In one day?
Yes. Well, you'd have to know this woman.
Okay.
And she says, "Please don't tell my boss that's what I was doing at work all day." Because I think she had got the Kindle version.
Okay.
And she says, "It is so, 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 so good."
Oh,
and I
wonderful.
went, "Oh, that's great." Because she was kind of the one that I thought, I hope she doesn't get offended. I mean, I didn't think she would.
Right.
Because even as I was writing it, she would say, "Well, did you put this in about me? Or did you talk about the time you broke my foot?" And it's like, "Yes, it's going to be in there, Vanessa." So she was thrilled with it. And I figured, good. I did
good. Sometimes people like to be immortalized,
Yeah.
I asked a bunch of people, like I had an experience after my mom died, very uncharacteristic experience of going to a psychic. And it was a very singularly momentous experience for me in the middle of the height of the beginnings of my grief after my mother died. And I wanted to write about it, but I didn't want to write about it if she was going to feel bad about it or whatever. And she's like, "Well, as long as you're not going to say anything bad,
right,
go ahead,
Yeah.
So,
that's interesting.
So I didn't change her name,
Yeah. Well, and I'm now at that point too, because I'm currently writing about my family history. And I thought it was going to be a book, but it looks like it's probably going to have to be a series of 3. I'm not really sure.
Wow. Yeah.
I know. I do know a lot about our history. And my mother, bless her heart, she's she was an amazing woman. She really was. And when she got an idea in her head, she was like a dog with a bone. She wouldn't let it go. So she got together with her brother, my uncle, when he was still alive. And they used to love telling stories. So they were writing all of these stories down. And then my mother just badgered my dad for his stories, because he was raised in Eastern Europe.
Wow.
He came over he and his mom, my grandmother, came over on the last boat out of Calais. Think about that. December 29th, 1939.
Wow.
I even have a copy.
Freaking time.
Just in freaking time. And, just some of the stories of, even just being on the boat. Because he grew up on a farm. He never, like being on this ship and all these people and all these strangers and so close in. And there were 1,100 people on board.
Wow.
And only 10 of them were Christian. The rest were all Jewish.
Wow.
And, that was it was very intense, and to be able
got into the United States fine?
Yes. They all made it
excellent.
in. What's even more interesting is that one of the families, it was near his village. I don't think they were on board the same ship, but there was a family who had a little grocery store in their village. And my dad, he used to walk there all the time, get candy, all kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. That same family ended up being our neighbors across the street.
Wow. That's weird.
It was so weird.
That's
but
world.
But we didn't really think of it as being weird. But now as an adult, it's like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy. And even and this is another long story, I won't go into it, but that same neighbor, their car ended up going through our living room window one March evening. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was in the car. No one was in the living room. It turned out just fine.
Wow. Well, that's a big mess. Hope you wanted a new window.
Yeah, we got a whole new wall.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yikes. Okay, so you wrote Forever Fit and Flexible as your personal story about how you found the way to manage your own pain.
Actually, no, it was more how I recovered and healed from my own pain. And then it's more of a how-to book for other people to explore how they can find their own path to health, fitness, vitality, and activity.
That's a better explanation.
Yeah, you can be incredibly fit and flexible at every stage of life without having to go to a gym 3 times a week.
Yes.
So there's tips in the book, there's movement patterns, and I don't call them exercises, they're movement explorations that people can, do on their own at home. And it's about making the most of every move that you do every single day. Like even when you're doing your daily activities, of unloading the groceries or loading the dishwasher or washing the countertop, all of those movements can be implemented in a way that you're getting some strength out of them, some stretch out of them, a little bit of every day. So you're not just going to the gym 3 times a week and killing yourself and wondering why you're hurting and not getting in better shape. This is just bits and pieces during the day.
So it's more organically part of the movement that you're just doing as you're moving through your life.
Exactly, which I think is how nature intended it.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think that the creator was thinking, let's give him a treadmill.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think when we were an agrarian society, we had no need for that because we were always moving.
Exactly.
Yeah. But ever since that I started doing Pilates regularly, I've noticed muscle systems that I didn't really notice that I had. And it was interesting that you said washing your counter, because I can feel when I'm doing that I'm moving like my entire, I don't know the anatomy, but the entire shoulder system and the scapula and everything. And even when I'm driving in my car and my hands are on the steering wheel and I'm turning, I'm noticing my lateral core side, abdominal muscles holding me up in a way that they didn't before. And that I find that exhilarating.
And and it's empowering because you're connecting with your body in such a deep, organic, visceral level. And that gives you even more control over your body. And that's one of the quotes from Joseph Pilates is he used to say, with Pilates, you are in control of your body, not at its mercy.
Right. Well,
and then
it's supposed to be contrology. Well, they didn't call it that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, they did it at the very beginning and it was like, what a word, contrology. Yeah. Pilates is better. Yes. But so that level of awareness is just wonderful. So bravo. Good for you.
Thank you.
Mazel tov. Yeah.
And I think it's doubly huge because I think for most of my life, I've spent most of my time inside my head feeling disconnected from my body, almost feeling that like my brain is using my body as a car. It's just a method of locomotion, if nothing else. And I now feel, not always, but much more regularly in my body and integrated. And that's a very deeper, less anxious feeling for sure.
And, the thing about Pilates, and it would drive me crazy when it started to get popular because, everybody had their own interpretation and the way they were explaining it. And this is a new exercise method and this, and it's like, oh, not really. It is about, body awareness and body control. Right. And it's about sculpting and stretching, but it's so practical. It's so functional. And that's what Pilates offers that is so different from any other exercise system. Yeah. Because it is everything that you do on the reformer or, on the ball, on the floor, on the mat, in class can be applied to every single thing that you do during the day. And that's where the magic happens. Just like you're discovering, the shoulder, the range of motion in your shoulder girdle. And, that's so good for your ribs as well. And your back. It just, to move that way it's truly marvelous.
Heavenly. So tell me about the ninja. Tell me about the reluctant ninja. Tell me about the martial arts. I wanna know more. I'm curious.
Okay. Yes. Well, I am the last person in the world anybody would ever expect to take martial arts. It was never on my radar. It was never in my DNA. But interestingly enough, my father did have a black belt in karate. He started studying probably in his, I think he must have been around 40, late 30s or 40, right about the time my mother had her fifth daughter. So, when you raise a house full of girls, number one, it gave him another reason to get out of the house.
Sure.
And number two, gave him some tools just in case. And of course, he always wanted us to come to the gym and work out and learn some karate. And we're like, are you crazy? Ooh, martial arts, karate. Ooh. So fast forward, to me starting at the tender young age of 47. Actually, it all began 3 years earlier when I met a new acupuncturist.
Okay.
So this guy was really good. He was highly recommended by one of my clients and said, oh, you'll just love him. I love him, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, I know how picky she is. So she wouldn't send me to just anybody. So I went to this guy for my first appointment. He seemed nice. He's a few years older than me. And he seemed really, really nice or whatever. And he had his clinic right next to a martial arts school. It was his dojo. And I didn't think anything of it. But I'm on the table and very first time I met him, he's sticking needles in my legs. And he got a very far away look on his face. And he said, with your legs and my coaching, I could teach you how to kill with these things.
Wow. That's a line. Wow.
And I mean,
did he? Can you kill with your legs?
Well, I can now.
Wow.
Actually, I can kill with a look. And that's
even
better.
Cheryl. Now I'm going to cough.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, that's gross.
Respiratory therapist. Hello.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Yay. Yeah. You got a lot of leeway there. So anyhow, I'm lying there on the table and I'm absolutely horrified because I'm thinking, oh my God, who thinks like this? Let alone says it out loud.
Right. Did you think he was trying to pick you up?
No, I didn't, because I don't know why I didn't think he was trying to pick me up, but a couple of guys I've been on their shows and they're like, pick up line. And I'm like, I don't think so. He just seemed really sincere and very impressed with my legs. And I just says, I wanted to grab my purse and run, but I really wasn't in a position where I could.
No.
No, literally pinned to the table. So I was a captive audience. So I said, well, thanks anyway, but no, it's never going to happen. And every single time I went for a treatment, he would go on and on about his martial art, the art of the ninja. And he would never shut up. And he would just keep on going on and on about all these topics. And he says, and women are so good at this art. You would be so good at it. And I'd love for you to take classes with me. I'd love for you to train with me. And I'm going, that is never going to happen. Not in this lifetime, ever. And I just wanted the man to shut up, leave the room, let the needles do their work. Let me relax. And well, I just kept saying no. And part of my story is when I was starting to see Mark. Just a few months before I saw him for the first time, I had a very traumatic experience in a doctor's office.
Okay.
I mean, the kind of trauma where PTSD.
Oh.
Yes. I walked into his office as a healthy, vibrant 44-year-old woman, and I walked out as a statistic.
Oh, shit.
Well, exactly. So predators are everywhere. Mm-hmm. And, we think, oh, don't go down that dark alley because it's dangerous. Don't go walking naked down Main Street because that's not only stupid, it's dangerous. You don't think, don't go into that doctor's office because it's dangerous.
No, that's one of the places you think you're safe.
Yeah, and it should be. And the funny thing that happened, Marcy, and this is really bizarre because, of course, I wasn't a ninja at the time, obviously, otherwise they'd still be trying to put them back together. But anyway, as soon as I went to the door, because it's a doctor I'd never seen before, and I got this really creepy feeling.
Before you even went in?
Before I even went in, I was standing there outside the door, and I had my hand on the door, and it was like, this isn't right.
And you didn't trust that intuition, and you went in anyway.
Right.
Because how many of us do that?
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, don't be stupid. You're just nervous. It's in someone you don't know, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, so basically,
I once canceled a doctor's appointment very last minute for that reason. I was having trouble getting my kids were younger. I was having trouble getting them out of the house into the car. We finally got into the car, and there was a tree down on the road out of our neighborhood. So we went a different way, and then there was a power outage, and the traffic light was out, and my son just said, "Mommy, I don't think the universe wants us to go to the doctor today." And I said, "You know what? You're right. We're going home." And I went home and I called the office and I explained the 3 things that happened. And the receptionist was just like, "Yeah, I wouldn't come either. Stay home."
Wow.
I'm not even going to charge you for canceling it.
That really surprises me. I mean, that's pretty.
I thought she was going to say I was freaking crazy, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's typically what they do say is you're crazy, you know, yeah, get your ass in here. But yeah.
But yeah, no, it seemed like there was a roadblock. Every time I tried to keep going, there was some other thing keeping me from leaving town. So, okay, I'll stay home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I wished I had listened to that inner voice and that inner, you know, my intuition, but I didn't. And so afterwards, you know, I figured, okay, I mean, number one, I was just like so shocked and horrified. And I thought, if this happened to me, again, a medical professional,
who else is it happening to? Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I knew it was nothing personal, but
right.
you know, it's just his MO. So I knew I wasn't the first person or the first woman, and I wasn't going to be the last, but I wanted to at least make it more difficult for him. So the first thing I wanted to do was report it, you know, and so it's on his record, and to get help for me. So of course, what's the first thing you do? You go to the people you're closest to and say, "Hey, I've got this problem." Well, I started with my very best and dearest friend in all the world that we had been, you know, bosom buddies for, you know, years, at least 20 years by that time, and told her what happened. And instead of getting the sympathy and the, you know, hand holding and the let's do this, right. I got a slap basically across the face. It was like the patent slapping. And she said, "Oh, Cheryl, that can't happen. That doesn't happen. And you're just, yeah, exactly. You're making it up. You know, you're just complaining." You know, I mean, it was bizarre, her reaction. Now I know that it was something on her end.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't. I mean, you know, I'm still in shock and horror.
Probably happened to her and she just wasn't capable of admitting it.
Right, exactly. So I thought, okay, well, you know, got shut down by my best friend. So the next thing is, okay, go talk to my husband. And I tried to tell my husband, and he put his hands over his ears. He goes, "This is girl stuff. You talk to Kathleen." So I had nobody to turn to. So I just did what, oh, thank you. It turned out okay though. And
yeah, but still.
That's the book. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, it was a really rough time. And I think that even when the book went out and as I was writing it, when I went through the hard time, it was just like, you go through that emotion, as you know, since you wrote your own memoir, you go through that roller coaster ride all over again. But anyway, back to Mark. So I stuffed that dirty little secret down really deep, pasted a big fake smile on my face, and went around like everything was just fine, you know, because that's what you do when everybody is either calling you a liar or, you know, a crazy person. Yes. So it finally just came spewing out about a year later, a little bit like a year and a half later. And I figured the only person I could really talk to, who I intuitively knew would believe me, was my acupuncturist, was Mark. Huh. So I went, you know, and I hadn't seen him for a while because, I mean, I was in such a pit of despair. I didn't, you know, even see the point in getting acupuncture, because what was the point? And so I went back to him after being gone for probably about 9 or 10 months and told him what happened. And he just said, "I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what." And so he says, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do some, points for the trauma, relieve the symptoms. These are the herbs, blah, blah, blah." So he gets me on the table and he's talking to me. And for once, he wasn't talking about the art of the ninja. And he's putting the needles in, and he says, "And you know, the thought," he says, "you're one of my favorite people, and that's no secret." And he says, "The thought that somebody did this to you makes me want to go and find him and hurt him so badly that he can't get up." And I thought,
like Mark.
Everybody likes Mark. I've had a couple of people read the book, "Man, I just love Mark." And I'm like, read the whole thing. He's not always the hero. But so anyway, then his campaign to get me on the mat went into high gear, and I kept saying no. And he said, Cheryl, there is such an incredible healing power in the martial arts, and I know this can help you heal. It will help you get your power back. And, blah, 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 blah. Kept saying no, no. Took him another 2 years until I finally said, okay, I will try it just to prove to you how much I'm going to hate it.
And you loved it.
And then I'm going to quit. You figured it out. I didn't hate it. Well, yeah,
you wouldn't have written books about it, so
I get spoiler alert. How I hated being a ninja. Yeah, no.
That's why she was reluctant ninja. Right.
Yes, that's why I was so reluctant. And the funny thing is, so 10 years later, I became Mark's first female black belt.
Wow.
And
kill with your legs.
And I can kill with my legs for real now. And the funny thing is, people would say to me now, oh, Mark knew, he saw something in you. He knew you were going to be his first female black belt. And there's only been one other since me, my friend Vanessa, who is in the book. But, he knew, he saw this warrior, he saw this, he saw that. And I just laugh so hard, I snort, because it's like, if you could have seen what a train wreck I was back then. No, he just liked me, and he felt so sorry for me, and he wanted to help me. But he had no idea.
Hadn't become a black belt, what you still learned was how powerful you are. Yes. And how to prevent anybody from taking advantage of you in any way, because you can hold your own and make them swallow their own tongue if you wanted to,
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter what color your belt is. You can
exactly
choke them with theirs.
Well, and I always tell people it's really funny because I never wanted a black belt. I didn't even want a yellow belt. I didn't even want the stupid white belt. Right. But it came with the uniform, so I had to take it. Right. It's like I was never going to test. I was never going to, I was in it for maybe a month, maybe 2 at the most, learn a few self-defense techniques and, call it good, call it a day, get on with my life. Boom. But I fell in love with the art. I fell in love with the training, and I really fell in love with the sense of empowerment that I got from training. But it took a long time. But it wasn't
worthwhile does.
Yes. But it was just a gradual, and even, there were times when I was in the dojo, even as a white belt and a yellow belt, when things would happen and I would just kind of roll my eyes and go, I'm going to write a book someday. Never thinking that I really would. This was before Forever Fit and Flexible. I mean, I never thought I really would.
Right.
And, Mark would always say, it's a great story, especially as I was up in the ranks. And, he says, it's a great story. So it's a story about empowerment and, just want to get it out there to the universe, let everybody know that there are predators everywhere. There are ways that you can protect yourself without spending 18 years in a smelly dojo with a bunch of sweaty men the way I did. And it's a story of empowerment. And, out of all tragedies can come triumph.
Yeah.
It might not be an easy road, but you can always get to the other side.
So how would you advise somebody who thinks they might be interested in either jiu-jitsu or karate or some other martial art, another midlife female with a curiosity in her backpack?
And I love that middle-aged lady with a sense of curiosity. I would recommend do your research. I was lucky. I just happened to fall into the right situation, the right art, the right dojo with the right people, the right sensei, the right community. Do your homework. So I would recommend looking into what they call the softer arts. So not so much, karate or taekwondo. I would look into more like Aikido, maybe some judo, jiu-jitsu. I'd stay away from Brazilian jiu-jitsu unless you really like to be rolling around and wrestling with strangers on the ground in bare feet, which they sometimes use to pin you with. And that just wouldn't work for me.
No.
No feet, not on the face. Don't touch the face anyway. So just look into some of those softer arts, even Tai Chi. And Tai Chi, there's different ways of doing Tai Chi. You can do it as a meditative practice, or you can actually do it as I don't want to say as a combative art. I don't mean it combative, but as an art form which you can use and learn techniques to protect yourself. So you can look into that. But what I would do is really research all the martial arts studios in your area, create a list. I have friends who love spreadsheets. I don't. I like documents. Create a list and then start calling them after you research them online. Start calling them, talk to the owner, talk to the teacher. And then when you narrow it down to maybe 3 or 4 schools that might work for you, then go and visit and watch a class. So definitely watch a class.
Sometimes they might have a complimentary class to sort of so you can try it out.
Most of the time they do.
Yeah. But
I would watch one first even, but that's me. I was always super cautious. But yeah, and try it and talk to the students and see, what they like about it, how long they've been there. And you can tell even just, as you know, intuitively. Sure. Use your intuition. Walking into a school or a room, you know the vibe, the feeling. If it's positive and uplifting, if everybody's looking miserable and unhappy, it's probably not the right fit for you. But look for a school that has mine didn't have, well, Mark said that he had plenty of women, but he really didn't. And if that's going to make you uncomfortable to be with just a bunch of men, then see if maybe they have women only classes. So, just research your options. And then the one thing that I really want to emphasize is, even if it makes you incredibly uncomfortable, and even if people tell you that you can't do it, if you feel in your gut it's right for you, do it. I mean, it could change your life forever. There's actually a woman in our school now who started, I think, at the age of 69.
Wow. That's awesome.
I know.
That's great.
Pretty sure she won't get to black belt, but that's okay.
Who cares?
It doesn't
Look what
matter.
She's doing. She's almost 70. That's awesome.
I think she's 71 by now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very cool to start something at that age,
Well, can I share another one of my little deep, dark secrets? But
please do.
It's a secret. Yeah, it's a secret, so don't tell anybody. But so
not on a podcast, though.
Yeah, well, that's true. So at the age of 58, so you might want to put this on your to-do list, maybe too.
Okay.
So at the age of 58, I decided it was time to start engaging in more age-appropriate activities.
Uh-oh.
So I started pole dancing.
Woohoo! That's awesome.
It's crazy. I know. And I think it was 2.5 years ago. My coach, one of my teachers who I go do private work with sometimes, because pole is pretty scary. It's one of the hardest things. It's harder than martial arts. It's really hard, but it's so much fun.
The strength you have to hold on, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's incredible. And then to get your butt in the air and flip, backwards and go upside down, and absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. So that's why I hired this coach. She's really, really good. Well, she talked me into competing. And I just laughed in her face. And I said, that's never going to happen. And 8 months later, I found my sorry butt, on stage in front of 250 people competing on pole.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are brave, Cheryl.
No, I think that I might have a little bit of the crazy gene in there. I don't know.
Either way.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
And so
how'd you do in the competition? Not that matters to me so much, but how did you feel you stood up next to the other people who competed? That's probably the better question.
Well, I won. So I think
you did.
Okay. Yeah. So they have you in different categories or different divisions according to, your level, your skill level. There's level 1, 2, 3, in age. So you have like from 19 to 30-year-olds, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and over 50 are the masters, only because they're
older,
over 50. Yeah. So there aren't that many women over 40 who want to compete. So they had to combine the over 50 with the 40 to 50, and it still were only 3 of us.
Wow. Okay.
So out of 3, I came in first.
That's still something.
Yeah. So I am a gold medalist, gold medal pole dancer.
There's a resume line for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Not all the respiratory therapists and PTs out there have that.
Probably not many.
No. That's so cool. So I don't know what my question is. My question is, how do you maintain the positive mental vitality or mental focus or whatever that secret sauce is to keep you doing all these things?
Oh, that is a great question, because sometimes life isn't always positive. And of course, with the 2 years of COVID, that was really, really hard. So I had to have a lot of heart to heart talks with myself and, convince myself this too will pass. And I think that because of all the work that I've done, with my professional and personal life and recreational life, I understand kind of how to calm myself down now. I understand when things are starting to brew and come to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, you know what? Not today. We're not going to do this. Let's just sit down, grab one of the dogs, snuggle with them, play with them, look at the positive things, instead of focusing on, oh, my house is so dirty, I really need to clean it. It's like, look, I cleaned the kitchen. Or,
right.
Oh, the kitchen is a mess. Hey, you cooked and made a mess, so trying to turn that narrative around and just turn the script and just flip it to the opposite side. And, once you do that enough times, that flip comes a lot quicker and it's a lot easier to do, because all of us get down in the dumps.
Yeah.
And,
some days are good, some days aren't so good.
Yeah. And especially if you're physically having a bad day, if you're physically not feeling good, then it's really easy to get into the, oh, woe is me stage. But if you're physically okay and then you're emotionally not well, that's a little bit harder, I think. But one of the things that I've learned that can really turn that frown upside down is to get on one of those great big exercise balls. I think every person should have a big exercise ball at home. All you have to do, sit on the ball, just kind of rock a little bit, do some bouncing. All of a sudden, it just, you feel so much better. The juices are flowing. It's good for your blood flow, your neurology, your lymphatic flow and your mindset. You feel like a kid again. And it's just things start to looking up.
Well, I think that too many of us adults get so caught up in all of our responsibilities and all the expectations that other people have on us, that society has on us, that we have on ourselves, that we forget to play. We forget to find something to laugh with. We forget how to find little moments of joy because we get so bogged down. So I've been kind of working on that personally because I have been too task and responsibility oriented in my life.
Yeah, I think we all are, but the ability to be able to look for those tiny little moments of joy, and you said it perfectly, play. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who were in like a really bad frame of mind, and they went back to things like that. Grown women were coloring.
Yeah.
Or sitting in the dirt and playing in the mud. And just going back to that again, it's that organic play, that the no responsibility of not having to be a certain way or do a certain thing. When we were little, when we'd have these milestones, you stand, now you walk, and everybody's like, bravo, bravo, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're fantastic, you're so smart, you can stand, you can tie your own shoe. And then all of a sudden we're in school and everything we do is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So we need to go back to that sense of having fun.
Exactly. I think creative art for me has always been my salvation. I've talked about this 1,000 times on the podcast already. It's something that's just foundational in me. And if I feel like I'm getting in too much of a negative rut in my head, I take out a big box of markers and stuff that I keep in the living room. So it's always accessible, and I'll draw and I'll paint or whatever it is that I always feel better, whether it's an actual piece of art that I'm creating or I have an adult coloring book that I bought at Five Below. It doesn't matter.
Did you make that beautiful print behind your head?
I did.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I've been admiring it. It's really gorgeous.
Thank you. It's called Neurographica. It's
I like that.
Very free flowing, organic, whatever you want to draw. And then every time the lines cross over another line, instead of leaving the line at just a plain straight angle, you're supposed to curve it and soften them and thicken the lines so that each one of those things begins to look more like a nerve cell.
It does have
a neuron.
It does have a very neuron type of look to it, neural pathways, and especially with the colors and the different colors of those neural pathways, because they're all responsible for different things, and those neural pathways can shift and change and grow and do wonderful things.
Cool. Thanks.
So I love the way that you said that, when you feel yourself just, losing control or whatever it was, I can't remember what you said, and you just intuitively, you go and you bring out those things that we all know what we need.
Mm-hmm. We just need to do it.
Right. Give ourselves permission to do it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I went to Five Below. I should be doing a recording for them. And I bought a little container that matched my living room, and I put in markers and stencils and a coloring book and a sketch pad or whatever, and some small little canvases, because sometimes I like to make little canvas things. And I just leave it in my living room. I mean, this room that I record in is my art studio. This is actually a drafting table that I've converted into my little recording studio, and we're surrounded by, you see the pretty wall behind me, but there's a monstrous rest of this room everywhere, canvases and paint and whatever. But it's my salvation. This is where I found my sanity and found myself and found my own permission and my own impetus and my own health, and figured out that I'm pretty damn great. I didn't know any of this before. So
right. So, and even just walking into the room probably makes you feel good.
Yeah, this is like my inner sanctum.
Yeah. Well, girl cave.
Exactly. You've got some interesting
paraphernalia. Yeah, I got a couple of katanas. So those are the two on the top are katanas. They're the swords. The one right below it is the wooden sword. The one below that used to be a 6-foot long rakshako bow, a bow staff. And now it is 2 3-foot long staffs with pointy ends. Oh. And that happened one day at the dojo with my friend Vanessa. And we were paired up and playing with these sticks, and she was the attacker, and she was coming for the last shot, was a kill shot to the top of the head. And she was coming so fast, so hard, and with so much intention. I thought, oh my God, she's going to kill me. And I just responded, to parry the strike as it came down. And it sounded like a gunshot went off in the dojo. Wow. And everybody stopped and gasped. And I'm standing there going, why do I have 2 sticks in my hands? And it was like, oh my God, thank goodness I did that. Otherwise that would have been my head. Wow. So yeah, and I have a couple of other toys there.
Well, we know Vanessa doesn't pull her punches.
She does not. She does not. She's
that about her.
She's an incredible martial artist. She started studying martial arts at the age of 7 and had studied several different martial arts. And I think she got up to brown belt in karate, and then she quit for some reason, and then eventually found Ninpo. And she's quite the martial artist. She's incredible and we made a great team, even though we were kind of like the odd couple. And it was her girlfriend that got me into pole dancing.
Wow.
Because Dawn was doing pole dancing, and Vanessa would come to class and she'd hold up her phone and say, look at what Dawn could do. So she'd hold up the picture and I'd be, looking at it, and then I'd turn the phone around and her girlfriend would flip again. And it's like, how does she do gravity? This? It was just really weird. And Vanessa kept saying, I think you should do this. I think you should try it. She says, they do the exact same thing that we do, but we do it with a moving body and make the body move. And they do it with a static pole, and they're the ones that move. And she's going on and on. After several months of this, finally I said, Vanessa, you are so into the physics of this, and you're so into it and infatuated. I said, let's just go together. We'll take an introductory, beginning class together, the two of us. And she goes, well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. If it was just brute strength, I would do it. But all that dancing, I don't think so. And I thought, okay, I'll just try it myself. And we're doing, warming up, and I'm going, yeah, that's not in her DNA. I can see her not doing that. But yeah, so that was 8 years ago. God.
Wow. So what you've proven over and over again is that you become what you believe.
Yes, ma'am. And that's absolute, just the end, in a nutshell, what you believe is what you become.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true.
So don't believe what other people tell you.
It's
when they
garbage.
Tell you can. Exactly. Just smile and walk away.
Exactly. So let's finish up with the 7 quick questions. You ready for a faster round?
Ooh, okay.
Okay. What 6 words would you use to describe yourself?
Stubborn.
Good.
Tenacious.
Definitely.
Resilient.
Yes.
Funny.
Yep.
Loving.
Of course.
And I can't think of the exact opposite of don't mess with me.
Okay.
So boundaries.
Boundaries. There you go. What's your favorite way to spend a day?
Oh, really depends on the day. But, I do so much and I am so active. One of my favorite things to do is if I have a day off to not do anything, hang out with the dogs, clean the kitchen, read a book, and just relax. Listen to some music, relax, hang out in the girl cave.
Sounds
not very exciting, but
who needs excitement? This whole week that I've been homesick, obviously I wanted to feel better, but I was laying on my couch, surrounded by cats, eating what I want, watching what I want, reading what I want, sleeping when I want. It was heaven. And I didn't, because I was sick and I knew the best thing for me to do was rest, I didn't feel any guilt.
Ooh, guilt-free.
Which was heaven.
I do that sometimes. I pretend, like, especially if the weather's bad, because we have sunny weather all the time, almost here in Colorado. But if it's kind of like a dreary day, it's like, and I don't have anything planned, it's like, I think I'm going to pretend like I have the flu today. I'm going to pretend that I'm sick.
Nice. That's awesome. What's your favorite childhood memory?
It's going to sound really weird. The day I almost fell off of a roller coaster.
Oh.
I was the summer before I turned 5. My birthday's in September. So I was not quite 5 years old. I was a very tiny little child, especially compared to my 2 older sisters were very robust and healthy. And my Slovak grandmother, Eastern European grandmother, used to accuse my mother of not feeding me or running out of food because I was so tiny and skinny. That was just the way I was. I was a tiny little girl. And this was in the day that they didn't have that elf that you stood up to see if you were tall enough to get on the roller coaster. And we were at this church picnic. So all, small congregation. So we knew everybody there. It was a day at the White Swan Park. And one of the rides we went on was the Mad Mouse roller coaster. And they had it was like individual little cars, not like a train of cars. And thank God they put me in the car with my oldest sister, who was, of course, much bigger than me. She's only 3.5 years older, or 4 years older, but much bigger than I was. And so there we were in the car, and we were having a really good time until the very end of the ride, where there's a series of bumps, each bump bigger than the other. So we hit the first bump, and I was so tiny and small that we hit the first bump, and I flew up in the air I was sitting between my sister's legs. I flew up in the air between my sister and the safety bar that I was holding on to, and halfway out of the little carriage of the car. Oh, no. And I was dangling kind of by my waist, screaming, and she's screaming, and you could see the adults underneath me screaming and running with the car. And she grabbed whatever she could to pull me back in, and it happened to be the elastic of my underpants. So she's pulling me in by my pants, and we hit the second. Didn't mind it.
No. A life-saving wedgie.
There you go. Hit the second bump, and I went up even higher in the air, even with her hanging on to me. And I mean, my fingers were like almost touching the track, and I could see my mother, who was 7 months pregnant, running underneath me with her arms outstretched as if she was going to catch me. And I'm thinking, well, this can't be good, because I've never seen my mother run. I've never seen her catch anything her entire life. I'm in trouble here. By that time, the operator saw what was going on, so was able to slow it down. And Laura was able to pull me back in by my underpants. So it was a really powerful life lesson for me that, wow. there are bumps in the road of life. And sometimes you're hanging on for dear life, and sometimes you're flying by the seat of your pants.
Literal panties.
Yes. And when, your mom always says, make sure you wear clean underwear, make sure they're strong too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yikes. And that's your favorite childhood memory.
Because, I'm not traumatized by it.
Okay.
I thought it's kind of funny. I mean, to this day, my sister still gets sick to her stomach when she thinks about it and when we talk about it. And my mom, even up until the day she died, she would turn this weird shade of green.
Yeah.
Every time. Well, yeah,
you were less than 5. I'm sure they full well knew the mortal danger you were in more than you did.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yikes. Okay. What's your favorite meal?
Oh, it would either have to be a Grecian platter.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or a seafood pasta.
Ooh.
Like seafood Diablo.
Spicy? Not spicy.
I like spicy.
I think I know that about you.
Yeah, you do.
I like the idea of spicy, but my stomach does not like spicy.
Mm.
Okay. What one piece of advice would you like to give your younger self?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Amen. Absolutely. What's one thing you would most like to change about the world?
I really do want world peace.
That'll be good, don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a really good thing. Yeah. Everybody just, stay in your lane, be nice to each other, read some books, take a walk, mind your own business, those things.
Well, we had this weekend, we had the confluence of Passover, Easter, and Ramadan. And I'm like, if that's not a symbol for let's just live together in harmony, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Is anybody else getting this message here, or is it? Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Now, completely changing the whole tenor of all of this. What TV shows might you be watching and or binging right now?
Well, we fell in love, my husband and I, not with each other, but with series.
I'm sure you did fall in love with each other. Yeah,
of course, a long time ago. But Longmire, which is a series about this sheriff in Wyoming. We are on our second go round of Downton Abbey.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes, it's the second go round.
There's a new movie coming out.
I know, I saw that. We just finished one Mayor of Easttown.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
That's really good. I mean, it's a little dark, that's one we had to kind of monitor yourself that, I think I'm feeling a little depressed. Let's not watch that tonight. But it's a really, really good series. And it's about a small town in Western Pennsylvania. So it really resonated with me. It looks a lot like the area I grew up in. So I could relate to that. And, we're really disappointed in Outlander, this new the series. I mean, we watched, but it's just not really, it's kind of like boring at this point. Oh. So that's just a little, I really like going back in time as far as, like the 1800s.
Historical fiction thing. Yeah, I love that too. I loved Outlander in the beginning, but I'm going to have to do a little more emotional exploration around it. But I have this fear, very palpable fear of being stuck someplace I can't get out of. Wow. And so when she gets sucked back in time several centuries and can't get back to where I find that viscerally frustrating.
Oh.
And I have a really hard time watching.
Oh, see, we loved it up until, and I read all the books. Of course, my husband didn't. And, he would look at me and say, is this in the book? And I'm like, and so much more detail. Yeah. But so this is the new series, or the newest one. And it's just not doing it for us. We're just like, maybe we're spoiled, with some of the other
Are they trying
series
to just rush and close it before they get to the
No.
end of the season?
No, they're not. It's just they're really dragging out parts of it. It just seems like, okay, you made your point. Let's move on, move on, move on. Especially because I know, a lot of the details from the book, and you can't put all that in a movie. But it's like, okay, you've done this how many times? I'm just gonna go get a snack.
Right.
No, don't pause it for me, dear. It's okay.
Right. I'll be back.
Yeah.
Oh well, we can't win them all.
No.
Well, Cheryl, this was wonderful. Thank you so very much for being here on Permission to Heal and spending all this lovely time with us. And it was so great to meet you.
Oh, thank you. It was wonderful to meet you and so wonderful to talk to you. I think you're an amazing person. I love what you're doing. I love the Permission to Heal concept. I love your art. I even love your cat.
Oh, well, I'll tell Melody you said so.
Yes, please do.
She's very sweet. Okay, excellent.
And thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I am very proud of this Permission to Heal podcast. I want to thank all of you for listening each week, and I'm so glad that it speaks to you. Creating and producing this podcast brings joy to my life, but honestly, I need your help because I find commercials annoying when I listen to podcasts. I don't have commercials on Permission to Heal. I pay for the costs of creating, producing, and marketing this podcast out of my own pocket, and I'm happy to do so, except that times are kind of tough right now, and I could use your help. So through Patreon and a Patreon subscription, you can support the Permission to Heal podcast and help ensure that I'm able to make more episodes and share them with the world. There are several subscription levels that come with different perks and swag. If you're able to, and if you are inclined to, I would really, really appreciate your help. Please go to www.patreon.com/permission to heal. Patreon, patreon.com/permission to heal. And it's linked in the show notes, so scroll down, click away. Thank you so much for your consideration. I hope you and your families are well and happy. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Permission to Heal. I hope you found it moving and inspirational. Please remember, you don't need anyone else's permission to trust and follow your heart. You have the power within you. Subscribe to Permission to Heal so you don't miss any new episodes, and please share this with your friends.